Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Morning. Happy Friday. I call officially this meeting to order. And welcome to beautiful and picturesque Summit. The cherry blossoms is not there, but you know you saw yesterday, the orchards now. And thank you for the tour and hospitality in Region 3. That was delicious at the end. Thank you. So we're going to start the meeting with the pledge. I've asked Commissioner Evans to lead us. While we're doing that, please also remember to pray for the unification of this country.
Thank you. Please join with me. I pledge to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. By way of tradition, we always ask the host mayor of the community to come forward and introduce the community and also welcome us to the community.
Thank
Mayor
you.
Olson, please.
You want me to take the podium?
Yes, please. State your name, your blood type, and all the goodies.
It's got to be blue blood. I don't know. My name is Daniel Olson. I'm a sixth-generation Santaquinite. Well, obviously, I grew up here. I've seen this city change from a little town to 18,000 people, and in some cases, it's a little bit hard to understand that growth, and in other cases, it's good because there are good people that come with it. There are challenges that come with it as well, but I like the way you said this beautiful, picturesque city, and it really is. I've traveled the world. I've been many, many places, and the best place that I see every time is Santaquin. And my own little secret thing is, after I have traveled and landed and driven, who's the first person I see and recognize in a vehicle? And I love that. You know, after being in Paris or wherever, you know, that's my goal. When I was young, there were less than 1,000 people that lived here. Main Street was not very busy, and I realized that the state of Utah controls a whole lot of things. UDOT doesn't control UEA, but certainly you must have their calendar, because with UEA, everybody left town Wednesday night and Thursday morning before you guys got here. So you didn't even see what we get on Main Street. Usually the traffic on nearly any given day is backed up to our building here just to get on the freeway. This is the kind of thing that we've looked at with the growth through my life, but also what we're seeing just with the explosion. The percentages I know that you talked about yesterday in how this has changed, but the challenges that it brings and the complaints that it brings and the difficulty that exists. And that's not just only every day, morning and night, but a lot of other times. So that is certainly why I know Norm talked to you about the criticality of what we need to do with Main Street, but also what we need to do with the interstate, the interchange that we have on Main Street. In 1966, when the freeway was open to Santaquin, it ended on the south end of town, just past the Red Barn, where you got your slushy that was good to eat. Never heard of to make the tour best, you know, but I guess that worked. But in 1966, the freeway finished and ended just south of that Red Barn. And that south interchange didn't even exist then. This interchange was finished kind of at the end as they went Spanish Fork. It ended for quite a while, and then they did a leg from Spanish Fork to Santaquin. And And everybody was kind of thinking, well, what's going on? I lived out in the orchards on the east side, and so one farmer was telling me, oh, I'm losing the best part of my property. I won't be able to raise apples. And now we have a freeway that's ran there for the last nearly 60 years. Well, the problem is this was finished, and then there was a lot of building on the freeway that came northward that was finished all the way along. And one of the last strips was the death strip between here through Nephi, took Laban out and moved the traffic towards Scipio. Well, Santaquin's interchange on Main Street was the last one built as they finished that first part of 1966, because I was a little kid. I had a motorcycle, I had bicycles. We played out on the new freeway after the guys would go home for the night, and they all went home by 5 o'clock, so it was wide open to us. And we appreciated that as kids. But I knew those people whose homes had to be removed because they were my neighbors. I lived right there. I saw how that was built. And I appreciate very much that over the past year, I've been able to have the ear of congressmen and senators and state senators and state representatives and about everybody I could to see what we could do. MAG has stepped in and helped us to begin that corridor preservation process to reform what's going to happen on the east side of town. This is so important to us. We are working at it as we've met with the government leaders. I think they've heard our requests, and we are doing our best to help in these efforts to make sure that we can be seen, that we can get on the list, that we can begin this environmental impact study and get ourselves onto the list to where we can see some changes. I do want to thank you all for coming to Santaquin. It's good to have you here. If you come in another year, we're going to meet in a new building where there'll be a little more space, and that's just another challenge. We welcome you to our city. It truly is a beautiful place to us. We love it. It's a treasure. It's a treasure in so many ways. We're grateful that each of you have taken time out of your busy day to be here. And I welcome the commission. You are important and incredible people and important to us as well. So thank you. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for letting me talk to you for a few minutes. Welcome to Santaquin.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Mayor, just before you sit down, I just want you to know, as I walked into this meeting, my daughter, who lives over on the east side, sent me a text and said, you pay attention and listen to me.
Well, I was going to point to each of you and say that. Hopefully subliminally.
She said, people face it, she said, we have, the Main Street is backed up from the Ford dealership to the freeway every day, night and morning. Just what you said. So. I'll report to her, I heard you.
I'll have to get her name so I can go meet her.
She's probably related.
Could be.
Well, her husband.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. On behalf of Commission and UDOT family, I promise you this much, that we will try to do our best to become such a way that when you come back on your trip, recognize us on the trigger. Is that a good promise?
Thank you.
Thank you. We recognize the pain. Growing pain is all over the state of Utah. Non-community is exempt. We have a beautiful place, but please try to protect some of the green grass, because we now suffer from that lack of that in Washington County. Next item on the agenda is introduction. We're going to go with the commission first and then UDOT family. So let's start with the screen. Donna, welcome. Good morning. Are you with us?
Good morning. I'm with you virtually, but sadly not in Santa Quin this morning. I'm so pleased and honored to be part of this commission. Again, my name is Donna Law, and I come to you live today from Cedar City, Utah, where I serve as a commissioner at large.
Thank you. Natalie, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, fellow commissioners and UDOT family and members of the public. Natalie Gochner. I represent Region 2, which includes Tooele, Summit, and Salt Lake counties. My blood type, Mr. Chair, is O negative, and I do bleed red. I'm coming to you today from the University of Utah, where Congressman Curtis has a conservative climate summit that I'm moderating a panel at, which is why I'm not with you today. And we do play USC tomorrow, 8th ranked team in the country. Good to see everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. Commissioner Law, start from you, please.
Thank you. I'm Commissioner Rhonda Menlove, and I made the beautiful drive this morning from Garden City, Utah. I represent northern Utah, the areas, the counties there, and I'm really glad to be here. As my husband and I were driving, and my husband was giving me the details on the roads. He grew up in Nephi, so he was telling me this was the main highway that went through town, and so we're glad to be here and learn more about your community and what your needs are. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Kevin Van Tassel, I'm from Vernal, Utah. I made the drive this morning. Beautiful drive through over Indian Canyon and through Spanish Fork. Come down to Basin or Santa Quin. My daughter lives down here, so I'm familiar and have driven on your streets some, so I realize the growth you're having, and it's good to be here with you. I noticed one thing, there's not as many speeding tickets given on Main Street as there used to be.
Yes.
No.
Oh, thank you. Good morning. My name is Jim Evans, and I, Conservation Commission, represent Region 3. I live in Orem. So my drive was a little shorter, however, Donna. My family went up to Bear Lake yesterday because of fall break. I'm here today, and then I'm driving up this afternoon, so I'll see you on the freeway going back up to Garden City. So, Mayor, my mom was born a little ways from where she was going to Eureka, and her cousin was the postmaster for many years, to be post officer. So I felt like I have a little tie into Santa Quin too. So good to be here with you today.
Good. Good morning, Luke Kramer, Commissioner at Large. I'm from downtown Salt Lake, although my family is from Scipio. And so I remember that 1966 when the freeway ended there, and we just love being here, and we know that this growth challenges is part of everything. But congratulations on a beautiful city, wonderful leadership. The tour did a great job yesterday on the tour. So thanks so much, man.
Thank you. And I drove through Scipio last night, so, and no ticket.
But there's a llama and a Dairy Queen, just in case anything. But Scipio sometimes wishes that there were Santa Quin, I'm sure. There's a lot of challenges down there too. But I do remember the interstate and pre-interstate too. We used to, every summer, herd cattle along there for my grandfather. Anyway, thanks for all you're doing.
Thank you.
My name is Nagin Zanadi. I'm bringing warm greetings from sunny St. George. And I brought you some sunshine so you can have some suntan. You want to go pale for me. And at this time, I would love to also recognize my sweet wife sitting in the back, and she's ambassador of the state of Utah as a UDOT Best Observer. She notices all the potholes and all the good stuff that we need to know. So she always keeps eye on what I do and how I do it, and which we love UDOT. We love UDOT. Thank you. So let's start the family, our UDOT family. Carlos, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Carlos Braceras, Utah Department of Transportation Executive Director.
Heather Barkle, Commission Assistant.
Grant Potter, UDOT Communications. Bob, let's come here and we'll go back and forth, guys. My name is Bob Pelly. I'm the SIP coordinator.
Robert Stewart, Region 2 Director.
Darren Bunker, Region 3 Program Project Manager.
Jeff DePay, Region 3 Communication Manager.
Eric Razvan, Region 3 Planning.
Lon Clayton, Region 3 Director.
I'm Lake Powers Gardner, Utah County Commissioner.
Okay, so
Joyce Peterson, Operations Director.
Terry Gould, Deputy Director, Planning and Investment. Lisa Wilson, Deputy Director, Engineering and Operations.
Lead Technology and Innovation.
Brandon Noble, Technology and Innovation.
Kurt Thornock, Region 4 Deputy Director.
Cameron Gay, Region 4 Program Manager.
Thank you, Program Development Director.
Carmen Swanwick, Project Development Director.
Leif Elder, Legislative Affairs and Policy.
That's Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And I would like to also, yes, Mayor.
I would like to note that we have Andrew Jackson from MAG with us as well. And Payson City Mayor, Mayor Wright with us.
We will give an opportunity when the time is right, if they have a lot to speak. Then. I would like to also recognize our federal highway partners, Ivan Guerrero and Jim Mandel. Welcome. Thank you for being with us. Okay, now we have item number 2, local area presentation, which we're going to go with the Rob Clayton and Darren Bunker.
Good morning, Commission. It's a pleasure to be here this morning and welcome you to Region 3. Between yesterday and this morning, you've heard a lot of passion from folks that have participated, and there's a lot of interest in what we do in transportation. There's a lot of growth in this area, not only here in Santaquin, but the surrounding communities. That's why Mayor Wright's here. That's why there's so many elected officials represented in this meeting. There's a lot of pressure on the transportation system. This morning, we're going to tell you about the projects that we've been working on here in the southern part of Region 3 and some of the challenges that we've taken on. So with that, I'll introduce Darren Bunker. We're organized a little differently in Region 3. Darren handles all of our projects in this part of our region. And so he's most knowledgeable and he'll be able to answer any questions that we have. So.
Just for the record, we don't use challenges anymore, Rob. We use unrealized opportunities.
That's a really good perspective. So just as an introduction, my family actually had a farm in Orem. My grandparents had a feed mill right off Geneva Road, and it was called Bunker Feed Mill. And that is the property where the Region 3 headquarters is now. So Region 3 headquarters is actually in Bunker Business Park. That was my grandparents' property when I was a young child. And connection to Scipio, my aunt and my uncle ran the general store in Scipio for quite a while. This was probably 30 years ago.
Thompson's?
No, it wasn't the Thompsons. But anyway, so I have fondness for Scipio too. I remember going to the general store and playing around that area a couple of times.
We're all cousins instead of Utah.
That's right. Well, I appreciate this opportunity. Also, you know, your favorite child is always the one you're with, right? The one you're with, you always tell them they're your favorite child. So today, Santaquin's my favorite city.
Wow.
So
That's the first I've heard that.
and then when I'm in Payson is my favorite city, right? I will say that the only hat I've gotten so far is from Payson. So. Anyway, the way we're going to have this presentation is we're going to kind of tell you some of the projects that we recently completed. We'll move into the ones we're working on, and then we'll move into some of the planned projects. Am I running this or is somebody else? All right, here. Okay. So the first project we're going to talk about is there's a rapid flashing beacon project out in Eureka. This was needed as part of helping the school students cross the Highway 6 safely. There is a store that they typically go to across the street in order to get lunch. So we worked with the Tintic School District on this one to get this in. We just completed this probably about 2 weeks ago. And so now that's operational. As part of that, we worked with the Tintic School District to get some right of way from the school and create some pedestrian ramps for the school as well. And so you can kind of see down on all these slides, you'll probably see a picture of the completed project. Another one was a
what we call a high T intersection at Powerhouse Road and US 6. We did have a fatality in this intersection last year. And so this became a very high priority project fairly quickly. Powerhouse Road, from a regional perspective, will become a main corridor in the future. And so we're beginning to see that traffic build up on Powerhouse today. And so we put in a high T intersection right here. So basically, the people that are coming onto US 6 and turning left to go down to Spanish Fork now have a protected entry point. We also expanded the, put in a climbing lane as far as we could through here, so that as the trucks stop here and they're going slow, that the cars can pass them before they get into the canyon. Which, as you know, we just have a 2-lane road up here, and people get anxious like they do through all of the US 6, try and get around those vehicles. So we put in a little passing lane here as well. And that's functioning now. We've had several resurfacing projects through the region. And the things we wanted to point out here, let's see. This Eureka project, this one actually turned into the RRFB project that we discussed earlier, as we went through and we're working on the pavement preservation project. That need was brought to our attention. And so that's one of the things that these preservation projects do, is they also bring to our knowledge other needs in the community. And so as we work with those communities, we can address other things other than just pavement preservation. We're working with Payson on a signal at 600 North. This is, you've ever been down there, it's right by McDonald's on Main Street. And so that area is really becoming congested. And we worked with the city to actually put the signals in so that they could develop a 4th leg in the future. And MAG has, I think, funded that. Is that right, Mayor? Yeah. The 4th leg that will go to the south of McDonald's and connect over into the other neighborhood. So we like to try and be forward thinking, try and develop our projects in a way that will be used long term. Reduce as much throwaway as we can. We also have worked with Santaquin on Main Street. Oh, let's see, this is the Payson one. In Payson, on 800 South, we did a pavement preservation project. And at the same time, we worked with Payson because they needed to install their water lines. So rather than having them come in and install the water line after the fact and rip up new pavement, we were able to coordinate the project with them and get that in at the same time. Okay, we'll move on to current projects. Although this isn't like a direct DOT project, it does impact our future transit system. This is the Sharp Tinted Consolidation. This red line here goes down, let's see, comes down across I-15, kind of down by US 6. And so we will be abandoning a line in this location all the way up to the 4th South corridor. In this case, we're going to be closing, I believe, 8 or 9 crossings. And the future UTA front runner line will run down a new segment, which is this green line right here. So as you can imagine, this is a very high profile project in terms of producing safety elements. And
Mr. Chairman,
go ahead.
When you say tin-tick rail, is that part of Union Pacific?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
So we
that's
are
just-
having worked with UPRR on this rail line. Yeah.
Great.
This project here, we're doing this in coordination with the Springville Spanish Fork 1600 South interchange project as well. I have the same railroad coordinator on both projects. So rather than having each project have their own railroad coordinator, we hired one railroad coordinator that does both projects. That seems to be helping really well because then they're versed in the needs of both projects at the same time. So that's working out really well. One of the things we'll be doing on the 1600 South, we'll get into it, but part of this project, Consolidation, is so that we can build one bridge over the railroad track instead of having to build two bridges, one over the Sharp, one over the Tintic. We only have to build one over the consolidated line. Mentioned the chart that it will be part of the Frontliner track. Okay. Another project that we have, it's actually out to advertising right now, is the Nephi Bridge Rehabilitation Project. This project presented a lot of challenges. I think you guys remember 4 or 5 years ago where we had a project on I-15 down in the Nephi area. I think we got a report one time that there was a half an hour, 45-minute delay down there. So we remember that experience, and we've done quite a bit of effort in developing an MOT plan, a traffic management plan, so that we can reduce as much as possible those negative impacts to the community. That being said, this is a difficult area. We're going to have to close the lanes. We've got on the northbound side, down on the south interchange, we've got 2 decks that have to be completely replaced. In order to do that, we're going to have to close the freeway down to 1 lane for a period of time. We will be trying to avoid holidays, UEA weekends, all that kind of stuff. But the reality is the contractor is going to need time to get those decks in. And so I'm not promising that there's not going to be some traffic challenges and some delays, but they will be minimized. One of the things we're going to be doing is we're actually going to be monitoring traffic about 5 to 6 miles south of here. Or actually, I think it's longer, like 20 miles. Anyway, we're going to be monitoring traffic so we can start to see the queue. And if the queue is large enough, then we'll open up traffic in through the construction zone as that queue comes through the construction zone. So we're doing as much as we can to minimize the disruption in this area.
Was this on a daylight only project?
We have the noise permit allows them to work through the evening as well. So
We'll learn some lessons from what happened on the freeway between St. George and Las Vegas last Thursday. It took people about 4 hours to visit inspection. About 4 hours. What they did is they finally, for the rest of the weekend, opened up all the lanes and didn't have the issues. So just monitoring it really makes a big difference. I mean, obviously, where you got a bridge deck on, that's a little more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Where you have the barrels and the pavement and all that, you can certainly. So I was glad to see some actually learn and do that. So hopefully, monitor, and that really made a big difference down there.
Yeah. Detours in this area are difficult too. Going northbound, I forgot what the community is, but it's about 10 miles away for a detour on the south side, and then they have to go all the way through Levan. And so detouring in this area was a challenge. We actually looked at creating a new off-ramp off of I-15 as part of our efforts here. But that didn't pan out as well. So
Darren, we've also planning a very robust communication campaign to try to help encourage drivers to adjust their travel times, kind of like what we did when we built the I-15 core project, to try to help with that traffic management, so that if people can adjust their travel times, that will help kind of spread that traffic movement throughout that Nephi corridor.
over the last year, I've traveled the country by car quite a bit, and as I've gone through construction zones, one of the things I've noticed is some of these other states are not shy about closing the freeway down to 1 lane for a fairly long length. We're talking like 5, 6, 7, 8 miles, right? And so that's going to be something that we're going to try here. Again, if it doesn't work, we'll back off of that perspective and go back to a traditional traffic management plan. But one of the things I observed is it helps the vehicles get into that one lane without all the anxiety of a work zone, and then they're moving. They're not necessarily moving fast. They might be moving 40 miles an hour, but they're moving and they're not stopped. And so that's one of the things I observed and asked the team to see if we could implement that on this project. The other aspect of this project is it is a joint repair channel replacement project. So we will be working in about a 20-mile area through here, fixing the concrete panels in this area on the freeway. Okay, jump to upcoming projects. Couple years ago, we did a safety study in conjunction with Region 4 on SR, was it 132? Up through Salt Creek Canyon, so going from Nephi over to Fairview. And we identified several potential projects in this area. I think we had identified 12 different projects. And we ranked them according to safety criteria. Obviously, if there was an accident in a particular area, it got a higher score. And so we went through a ranking process. As of last year, Region 4, I think, completed a couple of projects. The items number 1 and 2 on this graphic, I believe those have either been constructed or getting ready to be constructed this year. And those projects were done by Region 4. Those are passing lane projects. Item number 3 is a shoulder widening project from where basically the golf course is in Nephi going east. The shoulders there probably about 2 feet is all. And so we're doing a shoulder widening project that's in design right now. Number 4 is a passing lane project. Region 4 was able to get some funding for that, help us with that. So we really appreciate their efforts in getting that done. So when those 2 are designed, they will actually go out to bid together and be bid under the same bidding package. And then we're also looking at the future passing lane, kind of up there where you turn off to go to the Naval Loop. There will be another passing lane, and we're looking to get that funded here shortly in the next couple of years. So in all, you can see that this effort that we made to do this study is beginning to pay off in actual projects. And by the time these are done, we'll be almost halfway through those projects that were identified in that safety study. You probably heard about the enhanced striping efforts across the state, which is where we are modifying the stripes on the freeways and highways to go from a 4-inch to a 6-inch, and now we're up to an 8-inch stripe. And then, so there's a white stripe, and then following a white stripe, there's a black stripe. We call that a tiger tail. And they've identified that is helping people to be able to stay in their lanes better and identify those lanes. The striping is a high reflective tape in most areas where you can actually see it when there's rain or snow or other elements that are down on the pavement. And so it really helps with that visibility of those lanes. And so you can kind of see the area in which that striping is going to occur. Was there anything else? This is one of the projects I'm not as familiar with. Was there anything else we needed to talk about here?
Just, this is like we've got on the top. This is the first.
Jen, would you please come to the microphone?
Absolutely.
Introduce yourself.
Jeff Dupay, Communication Manager for Region 3. So I have to talk to a lot of different people on these projects. So this is the first phase of a multiple phased effort to improve the lane markings on our freeways and major highways throughout the state. We did something similar with Tech Corridor by adding the black contrast striping. This will tie into that, but also Region 2 has been working on separate projects to put in that wider stripe. Also, it's wet reflective to make it more visible during inclement weather. So this is our effort to try to improve that striping throughout our major highways throughout the state of Utah. So this is just that first step. So we're going to see more of this as we move forward.
That is a great plan, and that's one of the concerns I hear all the time. I can't figure out which lane I'm supposed to be in. So congratulations, Jeff. How much striping does $11 million get us? Just 8 south or more?
Guess we'll come back. So what we're going to do is in the area where we have asphalt, it'll just be the wider stripe. So we'll start there at 8 South and Payson, but then that'll take us right up to Lehigh Main Street. Whereas in the concrete areas, we will actually have the wider white stripe as well as the black contrast striping. At least in what we call the skip lines. And then the HOV or express lanes will also be a little bit wider as well, as you can see. Let me find the mouse here. You see right here with these two lines, those will also be wider, and then we're actually making that inside shoulder line a little bit wider as well, just to help increase that visibility. So the wider stripe, the wet reflective, should really help drivers as they navigate our freeways.
That's excellent. It looks like it goes Payson to Lehigh. This is for 11.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jim.
Mr. Chairman, it was the commission that is allowing us to do this. It was your action. We talked to you about this earlier. So thank you, commissioners.
I will take credit because I got enough complaints about it. I got a guy yesterday who recently called. I hate manhole covers. I think he meant potholes, but he said manhole covers. He said, I don't like them that much either. He said, no, I really hate them. I said, what's your name? I'll get back to you. I'm not going to give you your name. I just want you to know I hate manhole covers. So I think maybe it's in that same category of, keep the public going. So thank you. Thank you, Jack.
The next project are US 6 improvements. This project goes from I-15 up to Expressway Lane through that really congested area on US 6 in Spanish Fork. This is another one of those projects where impacting traffic is going to be an inevitability. Our MOT plan here is that this will be 100% night work. The daytime traffic is just too heavy to be doing construction during the time when people are moving through here. This area also includes there is a new big box store. I think I can say it now, a Target coming in on the north side of US 6, and it's already congested. So the plan here is to actually increase or add another turn lane in all directions at both intersections. On the Expressway Lane intersection, there's some filling concrete, and so we're going to have to be taking that concrete out. We will be replacing it with a high efficiency asphalt pavement instead. We won't be putting concrete back in that particular intersection. There is a plan to convert this section of the road to a freeway in the long-term plan. So we're talking 20, 30 years down the road. So we felt like we didn't need to put in concrete that has a lifespan of 40 years if this was going to be ripped out. And by doing that, we avoid all the cure times that are associated with putting in concrete as well, thus helping to improve our MOT capabilities. At the same time, we've been working with Spanish Fork. They are going to be adding lanes on the north and south sides of each of these intersections. So we've been working with them and coordinating with them on their project so that as we put in the signals, those signals function for the full build out of the future intersection. We are still dealing with the after effects of the flooding that occurred several years ago. I think it's been 2 years ago now. What you're seeing here is a culvert up on US 89 up by Birdseye. This is the area where the water came down, flooded over, flooded the highway, and created a lot of damage. So this is a culvert for one of those major drainage basins. And so we will be extending this culvert and upsizing it and basically redoing this. We'll also be doing some barrier upgrades in this area as part of that as well. Okay, we'll concentrate on local government coordination. Another study that we recently completed, and we talked about this yesterday on our tour, was the US 6 safety study. And you can see here the safety area. We're kind of down in this area right here, right now. And so basically, as we go over, when you go over that railroad bridge from that point down to the bottom of the hill in Genola is where we looked at doing some projects. I think we identified, I think it was 7 projects in here. We talked about SR 141 yesterday, where cars are disappearing in the vertical sag. That goes down into SR 41, which is this one right here, and then also 400 West. So these are the top 2 priority projects that we're going to be concentrating on. And Region 3, through our contingency money, will be looking at funding one of those projects this next year. This project value is, I think this, that was the study, that was the value for the study. And I'm trying to remember what the value for all the projects together were. I think it was in the $28 million range to do all the projects. And as I mentioned on the bus, we've split those projects up into smaller segments so that we can tackle them throughout the coming years in smaller projects through our Transportation Solutions Fund. Norm talked about the Santaquin Main Street project, phases 4 and 5, and those have been funded. And so we've been working with them. One of the things we looked at is Santaquin came to us and asked us to really look at the Center Street intersection. One thing I might point out here is that sometimes data, raw data, doesn't tell the whole story. As the mayor mentioned this morning, we're having this meeting here, and it just happened to be UAA, and so you're not seeing the actual traffic out here, right? So data doesn't always tell the story. That's the case with Center Street and US 6. Although the traffic warrants study doesn't indicate that we need one there, the citizens are actually experiencing things that we're not seeing in the data. So we have agreed that we would help fund a signal at Center Street so that we can avoid any accidents before they happen, rather than trying to use the accident data to justify one. And so I think this is the right thing to do before somebody actually does get hurt. Nephi Main Street. This has been an interesting project. Initially, this is a multi-phase project. Years ago, they did some curb and gutter work from 2nd South to 2nd North. We were going to extend that both on the north and south sides. And as we got into the project, we realized we really didn't have anywhere to take the water. And so we're going to be putting in this curb and gutter, and the water didn't have anywhere to go. So we have recently pivoted, and we're going to be helping them develop an outfall system instead. There is a developer that will be putting in some high density housing units down here on the south side. And as part of their project, they're going to be building a detention basin. And so our plan for our project now is to come down here to about Fifth South in Nephi and build an outfall system that will tie into that detention basin. And so we'll be able to build that system for the water to go somewhere. And then we can go back and we can identify another project in the future to take care of Main Street itself. We talked about this one yesterday, the Goshen Center Street Trail. You guys saw the dirt paths that the kids are traveling. Traveling through there. This pictograph also indicates that the bulb outs that we were talking about. So you kind of see what an impact that is going to have with people trying to cross the highway there. It's going to be a lot safer for pedestrians to do that. One note here is that this was done with TIF funds and a 40% local match. So all these different funding sources are a really important mechanism by which we can make at least a small impact on the communities down here. We recognize that, there's growth everywhere. We talk about the growth here. We know there's growth everywhere, but these communities are doing everything they can. You can see the efforts that Santaquin has put in. Basin's doing the same thing. They're doing everything they can from a local level, but there are some projects that are just out beyond their reach and that they need extra assistance with. And so we're grateful for this opportunity to share these ideas and participate with you. So any questions?
Well, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
We encourage all the mayors and the city leaders and county commissioners to take these data, these slides that we have presentation, a copy of it, and share it with the constituents in your public hearings and meetings that you have. Millions of dollars are coming to your communities and citizens need to know. And thank you for your participation, your partnership, and thank you, Matt, for doing also helping us with the contribution. Next item on the agenda is the public comments, and I will exercise my right as a chair to do my own public comment if I invite you. Recently, AASHTO gave the Sweet 16 award to UDOT. This is the second time they received, and that is for research and innovation. Congratulations, UDOT and UDOT family, for doing such a wonderful job. We also had the year 2022 Leadership Award from UDOT. I'm going to mention the names that we're proud of. They're from different regions and different categories of the leadership. Bracken Davis, Scott Nussbaum, Ryan Huntsman, Vicky Stromness, Rhonda Thiel, Alan Spenlob, Adam Lowe, Troy Johnson, and Vance Lakeman. Congratulations to all of you to hear my voice. Wonderful leadership. And also we have a Jeffrey Stevenson after 40 years of service in UDOT, retired. Wonderful man. I met him in the Region 4 once, and he's just the bubbliest ever. So happy fishing in Fish Lake.
We encourage all of the UDOT.
And the lastly, we had the Burke DeGroff, I guess if I can pronounce it right, he received a award from Governor Cox for the heroism. He's the one saved a baby boy during the dust storm we had a year ago. 8 people lost their lives, but he stayed with the baby boy and made sure that he was safe until help arrived. Congratulations to all of you and UDOT family and mayor and all the mayors. You can see we are in the business of saving lives every day. And thank you for all of the commission and UDOT family for doing so. Now I would like to offer the opportunity to the public, city leaders, mayors. Mark, we could come on forward. And please introduce yourself and your position And then, of course, tell us if there's any good news that we can hear from you.
Hello, Commissioners. I'm Andrew Jackson with Mountain Land Association of Governments, and I just wanted to welcome everybody here to the MAG region and thank you for taking your time to come down here and seeing some of the high growth areas that we have. I also wanted to just let you know about the great relationship we have with Federal Highways and working with them, as well as UDOT. All the folks at UDOT have been so great to work with, and I've said it before, James Brown's soul brother #1, hardest worker man in the entertainment industry. Carlos is the James Brown of transportation, the hardest working man in transportation in the Western Hemisphere, if not the entire free world. So I just wanted to give kudos out to Carlos and all he does to make this a great place. And one of the things that I'd like to say is that money follows competence. And if you look at the amount of money that's been going to UDOT over the years, under Carlos's leadership, there's been some significant funding, and all of his staff at UDOT, there's been some really significant funding, probably more than any other state. And that's the competence of UDOT that's able to do that. So I just want to say, thank you to our partners here at UDOT and all folks there and all that they do to be good partners with us and to create things. One last thing, we've also, I made a presentation, I think it was last month at the Transportation Interim Committee about a grid study, looking at the ITE grid and where we should have highways, where we should have arterials, collector roads, etc. Salt Lake County has a great grid system, but they are missing some of it in the south part of the county, and that's where you see some of the transportation issues. But I'll be making another presentation along with UDOT and WFRC about corridor preservation this next week at Transportation Interim. And one of the things that I'll be talking about is the importance of doing a grid system and having a grid study as a first phase, looking at jurisdictional transfers. Some roads make a lot of sense for the state to have them. Some roads make a lot of sense for the counties to have or the cities to have. So we'll look at that, and then we'll also look at how active transportation and transit plays that role. So we're going to be requesting some funding from the legislature, just so you've got a heads up. And I think we've got an appropriation request already in on that, but we're going to work with UDOT to do that. But it'll mainly be within the MPOs and RPOs. And then if there's some areas around the state that we think that may also be needed, we'll be working on a grid study. So I just want to give you a heads up about that. And I'm sure you'll be very involved in that. So, but thank you again for coming down there. Thanks.
Thank you.
Andrew, good to see you.
Good words, Andrew. Thanks. May I just say, after the report of Carlos yesterday's trip to the Middle East, he's the hardest working man in the free world, and next year as well. So.
He feels good. You're gonna break out in song, Carlos?
That's your job.
Sorry.
You're fine. You're fine. Members of the commission, those there in the audience that do not know me, my name is Bill Wright. I've been mayor of Payson City for almost 5 years. I'm just starting my second term as mayor. My history is that I, like Mayor Olson, I'm born and raised in Payson. I can remember riding my bike on I-15 as it was being built. And very similar to Santaquin, I can remember when Payson had maybe 2,000 or 3,000 people that were citizens there. So I appreciate the opportunity that doesn't come around very often to address you and let you know of our concerns. And I may want to mention here that we are very happy to work with Region 3, Rob and Eric, Darren and Jeff. We work with them quite a bit. We don't always agree, but we work well together. So we appreciate that opportunity. Commissioner Gardner, we appreciate your support. as we continue to address all the traffic needs that this growth that's coming to us is a problem, but it's welcome as well. As I went on the bus tour yesterday, and of course I'm aware of a lot of the projects, not all of them, but it impressed upon me. And as we talked about that this morning too, the different projects, I understand maybe a little bit how hard it is for you folks to make the decisions that you're tasked with. So we appreciate your input and your expertise, and just glad to work with you as well. You know, these transportation projects that Santaquin has in Genola and Goshen, we don't view that we're in competition with them. Maybe on some level we are, but what will help our community as a whole, and I mean all these communities together, we work well together. We feel like there's a room for us to succeed as well. You may or may not be aware of some of the things I'm going to talk about, but I want to make sure that you are aware. As we have worked with Region 5 or Region 3, we have talked about different phases that this new interchange on North Main, about a half a mile, quarter mile northeast of the Main Street. We've talked different phases that maybe we could work with. So we are totally open to those type of discussions. Just to let you know, this I-15 interchange that's been the environmental impact study has been done. The record of decision has been signed. Right adjacent to that interchange will eventually be Utah Valley University. They bought almost 40 acres. I think it's 38.9 acres for a satellite campus. And they do have a timeline that they need to meet. I'm not exactly sure. I've heard different timelines, but they do have a timeline. Also, we are totally dedicated to making that a successful interchange and being part of our long-range plan. So much so, we have hired 2 respective lobbyists to assist us with finding that funding and to help build that new interchange and other projects that we have as well. Also, Payson City is committed to planning a transit-oriented development around the I-15 interchange, and we're actively doing that as we speak. And we have also, since I've been mayor, had quite a bit of interaction with the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints. They are a major landholder there. And they have approached us recently and told us that they are, they've got about 3 years that before they can do too much, but they are very totally invested in being part of that TOD flank. So we're excited about that. Also, in anticipation of this interchange, coming off that interchange would be what's called the Naval Beltway. And it's my understanding that it will come off there and eventually, as it avoids some of the wetland issues, will come out about 2100 West on SR 198. In that area right there, there's been a development that has been completed, pretty close to being completed. It's called South Haven. There will be, when it's totally done, there'll be 401 units there, 9 acres of neighborhood retail space, and also 3.5 acres of professional offices. And that's just one corner of that intersection. So it is a very important part of our future and the planning of this interchange. Also, the transit study has completed for mass transit along the corridor from Provo to maybe to Santaquin. And so they have identified Front Runner as the best mass transit for our area. And then right along with that, there's been money that's been provided through MAG and UTA to do a environmental impact study on that same corridor. So that has just recently started and should be completed sometime in the future. Moving on with my notes here, and I mentioned the EIS proposed corridor, and it's on its way. Also, in connection with this interchange, although it's down on the 800 South interchange, we are excited about the MTech campus that will be built there on 15.5 acres. They were funded by the state legislature last legislative session, and they will be breaking ground in April or May of this coming spring. So we're very excited about that. Around that campus will be about 1,200 units that will be built by Red Bridge Development, and we're excited about the eventuality of that, and feel like that there is a definite possibility of that campus could be connected to maybe the front runner system, whether it be through rail or by a VRT. But we look forward to maybe planning that and exploring those kind of options as the future comes to us. Also, an additional thing that I believe that will impact transportation in our area. We've been lucky enough to have a shooting range that's out of Talladega, Alabama. It's called CMP. It's a Citizens Marksmanship Program. We are currently working with BLM. It's on some BLM land that is contiguous to our city, which we were, as we negotiate, we could annex that and bring it into our city. They are anticipating that it may take about a year and a half, hopefully. Maybe I'm being a little hopeful, but a year and a half to work through the process of the BLM's process to get things done. We do have the support of, I believe, all of our county commissioners. I know we've met with our state legislatures, and I've been in contact with our federal senators and representatives there as well. And I believe it's an exciting program that could help not only our community, but the county as a whole and also the state. Just a real quick explanation why that is the case. They have got a pretty good record of what they do to impact the retail prowess of the community that they serve in the area of $20 million, which again would help our community, our county, and the state as a whole. They are intending on spending about $20 to $30 million on an indoor and outdoor complex. They wanted to be real close to the interstate, an international airport, and so it will impact our transportation. So thank you once again for the privilege of coming and addressing you. If you have any questions, I would love to answer. And if I don't have the answer, I'll find it. Yes.
The appropriation that was done by the legislature, what was that project? I didn't.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was for the MTech campus. They appropriated money to build around an 86,000 square foot building. And they had a caveat that, you're not going to be able to start until April or March of this spring, 2023. Very excited.
Okay, any other question? Donna, Natalie? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor. Yeah, be careful.
Yes.
Go on.
Thank you.
Great job. Congratulations.
Commissioners, welcome to my county. I'm Utah County Commissioner Amelia Powers Gardner, and I'm very happy to see you here in our county, and particularly in one of our almost rural but becoming a high growth community here in Utah County. As many of you are aware, Utah County is the fastest growing county in the state. The projections over the next several decades is that we will grow faster than Weber, Davis, and Salt Lake counties combined. We will become the largest county in the state in probably the next 3 to 4 decades. As we look at that, my goal as a county commissioner is that my children and my children's children will be able to live here in Utah County. My 7th great grandpa Henry first came to this valley 168 years ago and lived out of his covered wagon in the old Pleasant Grove Fort. My family has been here for 8 generations, and my goal is that my family can stay here for another 8 generations. And in order to do that, we have to have access to affordable housing. Right now, the median house price in Utah County is over $560,000. It's higher than Salt Lake County for the first time ever, which means that the only places that a moderate to low income family can afford to live are going to be the more rural areas, Santaquin, Payson, Eagle Mountain, and those are going to start extending into Goshen, Genola, Alberta, and the Cedar Valley. So I have three things that I wanted to address with you just very briefly. Number one is the amount of money that Utah County gets from the total pot of money for roads. Over the last decade, Davis and Weber County has received 5 times more money for their infrastructure than Utah County. We have a higher population than Weber and Davis County combined. We're growing faster than Weber, Davis, and Salt Lake counties combined. And in the last decade, we've received 1/5 of the funding of Weber and Davis County and about half the funding of Salt Lake County. So as we look forward for the next decade or two, Utah County really needs more funding, particularly from UDOT. I know we're in the middle of updating our Transplan 50. I attended every single one of those meetings. Between now and 2030, Utah County is slated for about 10% of the growth funding. We have 21% of the population. We're growing faster than Weber, Davis, and Salt Lake counties combined, and we have 10% of the money. I happen to be an engineer, so I understand numbers really well, and those statistics are not working well for me as a representative of Utah County. We should have at least 25% of the funding, because not only do we have 21% of the population, but we have the vast majority of the growth. So we need more funding for these growth communities. So that's the first thing I wanted to bring to your attention as we look at planning. Thank you. Thank you. I understand that the Speaker of the House is from Davis County and the Senate President is from Davis County, and that has nothing to do with it, but the votes are coming from Utah County over the next decade. So let's start thinking about the people of Utah County. Okay, that's one. Number two, as we're looking at getting these corridors and as we're looking at building corridors, we need to not just be looking at the population as it sits today, we need to be looking at the population as it sits in a decade or two. The perfect example is Pioneer Crossing. It took us 10 years too long to get Pioneer Crossing. Well, most of the money was being spent in Weber, Davis County. We waited patiently for Pioneer Crossing, and then by the time Pioneer Crossing got built, it was already too small. It's 45 minutes to get from Eagle Mountain just to the I-15 corridor on Pioneer Crossing. So by the time we finally built it, it was already too small, because we had planned to build it for the population that they had at the time, not the population that was coming, right? Which is why we have to have, it still wasn't built well enough.
It was built for 30-year traffic projection. So.
Well, then your 30-year traffic projections were incredibly wrong, because it's already too small, right? So if it was built for 30-year traffic projections, then maybe we need some new projectors, because it was already too small, which is why we have to fund 2100 North, which is why we're looking at another alternate. I mean, we're already looking at 2 alternates for Pioneer Crossing, and it's already too small. So maybe we can learn from the past, and if our numbers sucked that bad then, maybe we can make them a little bit better this time as we look at the growth and for the future. And then the third thing is corridor preservation. Right now, cost per acre is a lot cheaper than it will be 20 years from now. The Cedar Valley, we don't have a lot of corridor preservation there. We talked about a grid system. We've got basically this area here, west of the freeway, south of the lake. We've got a lot of corridor preservation that we need to look at. And anything I can do to help you with that, absolutely reach out to me. If we need more federal funding for projects, I am willing to talk to all 6 members of our federal delegation, even though only 4 of them represent our valley. I was recently talking to Blake Moore about this, that we needed more funding, and Blake Moore said to me, Congressman Moore said, Commissioner, I don't cover your area. Why do I care? And I said, because Congressman, if the people can't move to my county, they're going to move to your county, and your traffic's going to get worse. And he said, good point. I'll help you where, however I can. I'm willing to talk to all 6 members. I'm willing to go get that federal funding. I'm willing to lobby the legislature, and I'm willing to lobby the state to help you in any way that I can. So we need corridor preservation funds. We need to be planning for the growth, and we need to ensure that Utah County is recognized as we will be the biggest county, and we need to plan for that, or we're going to have a way bigger mess. So those are the 3 things, but just to summarize, anything I can do to help you. Yeah.
The question I have, if I may, is Has Utah County instituted the 1/4% sales tax for transportation?
We're actually talking about it right now. If it's not done before the end of the year, it'll be done next year, the 5th quarter
The
cycle.
reason I ask that is Utah County has always been slow in doing anything for whether it's UTA or transit. My term in the legislature, other counties have that tax that they're offsetting and we're participating with. Utah County hasn't had that, so that's got to be a real problem for you and for us.
Right,
to
and
an extent.
absolutely.
So if the hurt's getting bad enough, maybe we're willing to.
And
pay.
we've actually already started talking about it. We're actually in talks with UTA right now to look at that. If we don't have it before the end of the year, we'll have a change on the commission and we will have it in the beginning of next year. For the last, and I don't disagree at all. For the last 150 years prior to the last 2.5 years when I was elected, every county commissioner from Utah County looked just about the same, right? I'm the only county commissioner in Utah County right now that actually grew up in Utah County, and I'm looking towards the future. You're right, Utah County has been slow. We've been slow for transportation, we've been slow for water infrastructure, we've been slow for our own buildings. But the voters of Utah County have spoken and they've decided they want people who care about the future in charge. And we will absolutely be looking at that. So like I said, we're coming to the table, whatever I can do to help you. But we've got the youngest county. Our average age is 23 in this county. 70% of our growth is from us having babies. In 2001, we issued 6 birth certificates for every death certificate that we issued here in Utah County. Right? So the growth is not going anywhere. We've got the 2 largest universities in the state are in our county, 80,000 college students. So as we look at things, just recognize that the last 20 years of Utah County has been massive growth, but the next 20 years is going to be even greater massive growth. So anything I can do to help you, please let me know. Yeah.
You know, if you look at the Becky Lockhart days and her ability to secure transportation funding, and you look at the impact of what's happening in Utah County now, the changes, the widening of the freeway, all of that work, that foundation was laid by Speaker Lockhart. So I think looking back, maybe a little bit historically to how that was handled and how the approach there, and there are people with whom we work who know that and understand that, might be a great lesson and may give you some guidance about how to proceed. So I'm just
and I have been working
a
with our
little bit
legislators.
of advice there.
And I have been working with our legislators and they are well aware, but I definitely just, like I said, looking at when I became a county commissioner 18 months ago and I started looking at the numbers, it was apparent to me. I have been working with our legislature, and you'll notice this last legislative session, we actually did see a lot more coming down here to Utah County.
Great. Then you're figuring it out.
Yeah, so I worked with the legislature, we saw a lot more coming, but I just, every meeting, and not just UDOT, but UDOT, UTA, and the state, every meeting when I go to talk to people, I want to help them realize Utah County has not really been very loud in the past decade, the last 8 years, probably 8 to 10 years, but we are where the growth is coming and we're not prepared for it, and we need to be. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
My name's Keith Evans. I'm a resident here in Santa Clara, Utah. Wanted to talk to you guys about some of the plans and some of the stuff you guys are looking at. But I think, as the commissioner just stated, I think we're a little late to the party on some of the plans. We talked about, our mayor talked about how far the traffic backs up here on Main Street. If we don't get that I-15 overpass or another plan in place, we're going to have the traffic backed up to Goshen to get onto, and you're going to be a 45-minute to an hour, just like they have over in Lehigh. We got to get that project for the state and that overpass or Main Street redesigned here in the next 2 to 3 years. We've got a lot of growth going on the west side, whether it's Goshen, whether it's Genola, whether it's Eureka, whether it's that side of the valley, is all where the growth is going for Santa Clara. We're putting businesses on the west side. we're adding more and more projects to that west side, and we're adding more and more traffic to that small corridor. So there's a couple of things I would like to give you guys suggestions when we're doing it. I know you guys have a 30-year plan, a 50-year plan, but in that 30-year plan or that 10-year plan, we probably need to have a corridor that comes off that you guys are working with. I think it's going off onto 141 eventually around the Kilgore plan over here and coming off with a whole new off ramp. You got an overpass there already. You could bring that off ramp off, direct that highway out into Goshen, out into Summit Ridge, out into the Genola, the Eureka area. Because once we get, and there was plans for manufacturing to be going out in that area. If we have manufacturing out there, these roads are not going to be able to handle it. Your corridor is not going to be able to handle it. So we can't wait the 10 to 15 to 20 years to fix a problem. We have a problem now. And when you're talking Main Street, I know you guys have got, and our city's done a great job of trying to put that corridor of Main Street from, I think it's 3rd east down to the end, down to where we're at standing here, of making that a 4-lane road with a turn lane in the middle of it. One of my concerns is, and it's been brought up a couple of times, the way that the state gets funding quicker to a project is somebody's got to die on the road. I don't want to see that happen, but as we're putting in that 4 lanes, 2 lanes on each side, along with parking on each side, right now we've got it at the end of town. You go park a dually truck out there and you step out of that truck, you're putting your life at danger. Because there's not enough room for you to walk around that truck to get to the sidewalk that you need to be on that 4-lane road. And there's not enough room for the city or us to expand that road out. So that's why I think we need to have a corridor coming off somewhere else to divert that traffic that needs to be done. The cheapest way is probably get the overpass done, where we get 4 lanes going through that to get the traffic to go different directions and that interchange there, but that's what I think. So I'd let you guys know what our citizens are thinking, what we're looking at citizens, because it's really a big problem here. I know you have problems all over. I mean, I travel the state all over the state. I see that there's problems all over, but you do have a big growth. And like the command commissioner says, we are the largest growing community. With being the largest community, we should be getting the largest funding, because you're getting the largest tax break. If we're the largest community and we're the largest one, the state is getting the largest tax money from our community and from our county. And so we should be getting those funds back to where the public is putting that money into. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hold on, so, get out there. Oh, I won't embarrass you, Mayor.
You never have.
Doug Roebuck's my name, and I live on Main Street, and you're all welcome to come down and sit on my front porch. I've lived there for 30-something years. I'm a native of this community, of this valley, active in the community for quite a few years. I've been on planning and zoning, ran for councilman, never got elected. We have one of our best communities right here, guys. I want you to know that. We got some of the best mayors right here in this town. Trying to make this road bigger is a Band-Aid on a problem. Improving a belt route would be a better option. Thank you for you guys' time for coming. Thanks for inviting us. The public, who should be in charge of the government, who should show up more than we do, you guys take this into consideration, and before you put a bridge across Utah Lake, think about putting a belt route around it, would you please?
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, no.
So commissioners, you heard from me yesterday, Norm Beagley, Santa Clara City Manager. I do have one public comment that I'd like to share with you that was emailed to me from a resident that was unable to attend. My concern is Main Street and the congestion it's causing, especially with the interchange. I'm not just concerned about Main Street. and the safety and the congestion. We need to, sorry, I'm just concerned about Main Street and safety and congestion. We need to persuade UDOT to put us, put phase one and put us in phase one instead of phase 4 or 5, as this is a real concern for us as citizens and drivers. Thank you.
Thank you, Norm.
Thanks, Norm.
Norm, thanks again for that excellent tour yesterday. Very informative. Great job.
Best city manager, right there.
He's getting ready tomorrow, right?
That's why everybody's moving here.
And I don't know if you guys have seen their water treatment plant. I know you don't do that, but it's incredibly impressive, especially for a town of this size to be that forward thinking with their water treatment. It's fantastic.
I'm sure it's for that history too. That was not an easy political move.
Any other person in which one would like to share their concerns? Anyone from the online community? Anyone that we can? Eileen, you have anything to report? Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. I do have one written comment that was received this month to report on. It comes from Landry Heaton. He writes, "Hello, Transportation Commission. I hope all is well for you. I am writing concerning some plans," and he has 2 maps and 1 comment, and these maps will be attached in the meeting minutes for your reference. He writes, "I laid out a couple months ago concerning state maintenance of given rural roadways for the long-range rural transportation plan. His first comment map illustrates an almost mile-for-mile transfer of rural roadways that do not appear to serve much of a statewide purpose for roads, not currently under UDOT's jurisdiction, to better serve as a statewide transportation purpose. This map goes into more detail on a road-by-road basis. The second map, which will be attached in the meeting minutes, shows a couple of potential longer consolidated multi-state routes that would carry long-distance traffic between their endpoints. The payoff for the traveling public," he writes, "would be a single route identifier between these routes' endpoints instead of multiple identifiers currently in use. Given the nature of both of these multi-state consolidated routes, UDOT would need to coordinate with neighboring DOTs in order to enact these changes. The comment I have is a proposal to combine the State Route 141 and 147 designations, as the northern terminus of SR 141 is also the southern terminus of SR 147 at Macbeth Corner, west of Payson. Going north on 5600 west while crossing 104 south, the milepost reset at SR 141 ends and SR 147 begins. Why not combine the routes and therefore the mileposts for a more concise navigation? Let me know if you need anything else, and thank you for your time, Landry Heaton."
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll move on to the next item agenda. We're pleased to hear from Ivan Marrero, who will represent Federal Highway Administration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Ivan Marrero, and Santa Cruz is also my favorite city.
Man, we love you.
I do want to thank Rob and Norm and the Region 3 staff for the excellent tour yesterday. On the federal side, it's always to just focus on the interstates and the major metropolitan areas. So it's always nice to come out and take part in tours like we took yesterday and hear comments like we're hearing today. So you just get a feel for what really is happening in some of the other areas of the state. So thank you so much for that tour. It was very educational for me. And just, just interesting to learn about all the opportunities that we're having with growth in transportation in the area. So thanks again. Surprised to learn that I'm working with James Brown on transportation. I always consider Carlos the Bruce Springsteen of car. But anyway, but no, there's no question that we have excellent leadership here with the state, and Carlos, yeah, he's nationally recognized for the efforts that he's done and the accomplishments that we've made here in Utah. So let me just start real quick. A couple of things to bring to the Commission's attention this morning. This has been on the news already, so I think you will have heard about it, but UDOT was awarded $800,000 for this bridge investment program planning grant. So it will be utilized to do a feasibility study on I-84 and look at some of the bridges in that stretch, the rural stretch of the interstate, and come up with solutions. The good news about this announcement is that it also kind of moves Utah to the front of the line when it comes to requesting funds for the bridge investment program, because they will already be selected for this. So chances are pretty good that they will be awarded additional funds under this program. And it was one of 23 states. You can see in the map the other states that were selected for the grant. So congratulations, and I know it'll be put to good use. Couple of additional grant announcements that came out recently. The first one is called the Culvert Removal and Replacement Restoration Grant. There's a notice of funding opportunity that was announced a couple of weeks ago, and it makes about $1 million available nationwide, and this year there'll be $196 million available, and it's basically to improve or restore fish passages for anadromous fish. So I'm not sure. Those are the fish that are kind of
the barrel.
Well, yes, but those are the fish that are, they're born in a stream. They go out to the Pacific Ocean or one of the oceans and live their whole life and come back to spawn. If we have those kind of fishes, and then we have fish passages here in Utah, you're welcome to apply for this grant. There's a couple of other funding opportunities or grants that were announced. These are more on the smart transportation and technology grants. The first one is called a SMART, which stands for Strengthening Mobility and Revolutionizing Transportation Grant, or SMART. And we got have $100 million available over the next 5 years. And this is to be used to advance or showcase technologies that utilize data and technology, for projects that utilize data and technology to resolve some of their issues. And it talks about the vehicle technology, system innovations, and also new ways to manage and monitor infrastructure. And I provided there all the information on how to apply, and the deadline for applying is November 18th, 2022. The second one along the same lines is the Attained Grant, which stands for Advanced Transportation Technology and Innovation Program. And this one, again, to showcase technologies that improve driver and drive time, travel time, and transit riders travel time also. So again, the information is right up there. This one has, let's see, $60 million is available. And I would imagine that's over 5, and they put that on there, so it might be over 5 years also. But anybody interested can go to those links, follow those links, and get additional information. And November 18th is also the deadline for this one. Just wanted to bring the commission up to date on what's going on with the emergency relief efforts done in southern Utah and Moab. So we received the damage estimate from UDOT, and we completed our own assessment of the sites. We have 5 sites that have been submitted for funding, amounting to $3.8 million, $3.4 million in repair costs, and we are in the process of assessing that request and making our final determination of the eligible. So that should be coming out fairly soon. Let's see. There's some of the pictures of what some of the damage that happened on there in Moab. A lot of it is just debris, erosion, undermining of some structures, and some debris settlement, and those kind of things. So we're looking at making our final decision on that one. We've issued the apportionments for fiscal year 2023. So basically, I backed up my fish stocking truck into the pond and deposited $469 million of fish in there. So that money will be available as we get the appropriation acts. The money will be available to be utilized. A couple of other apportionments. We had the bridge formula program was apportioned and for a total of $45 million. And the national, well, that one's covered. I forgot what the number is, but down there's more than $421 for the national electric vehicle. Let me see, I have it here in my notes. What a total number for that one. Oh wait, I can't read it because I don't have my glasses on. As soon as we stop sharing, we'll be able to see the number. I'm sure it's millions of dollars.
7.7.
7.7 million of people thinking about it. A couple of other items to conclude here. You know, when it comes to the end of the fiscal year, the federal fiscal year ends at the end of September. So there's a couple of things, critical things that need to be done to make sure that things keep going. One of them is to approve the statewide transportation improvement program, or STIP, and we were able to get that. It's Federal Highways and FDA both are review and approve those STIPs, so we were able to get that done by the 30th of September. And we do want to, you know, really express our appreciation for a very excellent planning work that we do here in Utah. The collaboration between the MPOs and UDOT it's second to none, and it makes our job a lot easier. It's so easy to when it comes to reviewing and approving those steps. The second thing we need to do is critical is to close the books, make sure that every federal dollar that has been apportioned to the state is obligated, so it doesn't lapse. So by September 20, thanks to the great work of Kim Robbins, Ivan Hartle, and I'm sure several other people over at UDOT, we were able to obligate all $459 million for the year. So thank you again to UDOT for excellent work there. And finally, some kudos. Every quarter we get our inactive obligation report. This is the way we track how well money is being put to work, how well we do at not letting funds sit around. So it's a measure basically of funds, projects that have had funds sitting for unexpended for greater than 1 year. So I'm happy to report that Utah was one of 5 states where our quarterly inactive obligation was at 0%. That means that there were no projects sitting out there for over a year without the funds being spent. So it's a reflection of the good work that our project managers do, the consultants who manage those projects, the contractors who build those projects, how well they do at keeping the funds moving and the project moving. And it is the 4th quarter in a row where we've been at 0%. So again, 1 of 5 states. I will not name the other states, but 4 of them are on the west side of the country. So excellent work, and really appreciative of excellent work of keeping those numbers down and keeping the dollars going out to the contractors. Finally, I finished my presentation always with this slide just because there's so many grants out there. I want anybody who's listening or seeing my presentation to know where they can go and find more information on federal grants. So this is the DOT Navigator website with the links that people can go to. That's all I have for you this morning. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Question, Lonnie?
Great.
Good job as usual.
Thank you very much. Watch out for that fly.
Yeah.
Forgot to say Utah's the best state. That's why
I love Utah. I'll stay here for a while.
Before I introduce the next item, I'm impressed to kind of answer some of the questions that we had, commissioners, or there's some concerns. President Gordon Hinckley used to say adulation is a disease that should not be used to describe a man's accomplishment when he's alive. And after all, of course, he doesn't need it when he's dead. I'm not going to use that word to protect the UDOT and UDOT family. But you have a good friend, UDOT. I have a privilege of serving with Carlos and his deputies, rest of the UDOT families for the last 10, 11 years. I've seen what they do and what their hearts are. With the commission, we drive miles and miles from every corner of the state. Some of us long distance, some of us short distance, and we serve in different walks of life, each has a different capacity in life. But we travel different part of the community as part of this, giving the cause of the people of the community, the mayors, the city managers, county commissioners, citizens, to see how they feel, what they do, what kind of unrealized opportunities there in communities that we can serve and help them. I promise you this, every one of the 29 counties of the state of Utah has the same exact feeling that we have this morning. Daggett County says the same thing. They have forgotten us. State, commissions, UDOT, the whole world. San Juan County Commissioner Bruce Adams says the same thing. He shows up and look. We are the farthest in the state of Utah. We are almost better to get help from Arizona and Colorado in the state of Utah. Washington County, every one of you have one extra home in Washington County that you travel to come to us. They have the same kind of concerns. What happened? Why they forgotten us? Why they forsaken us? Go to the middle of the communities and you have Wayne County and Howard County and everyone the same thing. Why the state has forgotten us? We have not. This commission, UDOT families that you saw how many are here for the purpose of telling you how much they care about the community. You saw the millions of dollars already allocated, millions are coming for the future projects. That is not the thing that we have forgotten. That's an indication that we love you. Otherwise, why would we even show up? We're used to the fancy places to go have meetings with the microphones and the projections and all this. We're here in the basement because we love you. We love you community. We want to help you. You notice that the minute the report was on the truth yesterday, it was already projected. You don't already know about your challenges and your problems and issues. Andrew mentioned how much is already involved from what that's done people. I mean, everybody is really trying to help. But remember, 29 counties, and you have this much budget to go around.
Well, and every one of my fellow commissioners in all those 21 counties, that's what these guys elect us to do, is to remind you that we exist. So you'll hear it from every one of us because we care just as much.
I know you do. I remember one of the old Persian kings when they had asked about, they said this is about maybe 300-400 years ago. So people had asked about, we're not giving enough money. These are the soldiers, that we're not giving enough budget or money to do anything. It says, okay, line up. I don't know how many people lined up, from maybe 50 or 60. It was a snow season time. We had one of the biggest snowballs. We give it the very first soldier. We said, pass it on. By the time we got the last one, there was nothing left. So we're dealing with the same concept. We have to use money wisely. The budget they give us by the legislators and the state. And of course, we have some petty cash that we use in the other regions. We give them an opportunity. And they are frugal because, after all, this is your money. They have to be very careful to using it. But they always manage to come up with some kind of extra money to do some small projects here and there. Well, they're waiting for, I think, to show up to say this kind of money comes to the state of Utah. It's going to be 5 years before we can spend it, but it's coming. And before we can allocate that money to communities, please recognize we are your friends.
Yeah, and let us know what we can do to help you.
You start talking. You start talking. You don't have to wait for other signals. We love to hear from the people of the Washington, D.C., from the state, and because after all, there's one mandate what we should do. And comes to our hands, we know how to spend it, believe me. But we need to get it. Okay? So please, all of you, the mayors and city managers, we are here to help you. We are your friends. We have no other agenda in life except to come into communities, watching to see what we can do to make your life easier, better. Because after all, we're also traveling the same roads. We're stopping in the same hotels and using the same facilities. And if we cannot use it in your place, someplace else, we're gonna have the same challenge. So we are working 29 counties together to get you the best that deserves you and your community and your citizens. Thank you. Okay, next item agenda is 5 UDOT School Board and Comments Warwick and Troy Peterson. We'll be back to present that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. I'm Carmen Swanwick, and I'm going to give a project delivery update for you this morning. Let's see. So we'll jump right in. As of right now, we've advertised 50, we're going to advertise another 51 projects in the next 60 days. We have 3 past due, and I'll kind of go into those and give you an update on those when I scroll down here a little bit. So for this current fiscal year, we're right on track with 88% being advertised on time. And we've delivered 42 projects since the beginning of July, equaling about $221 million. Going down here, oops, sorry about that. The total cost of these projects in the last month, the total value of what we have advertised is about $173 million. I'm getting down into the advertising status. And so here's where I'll kind of give you a quick update on those 3 past due. This project right here is really still in railroad negotiations. We don't anticipate that one will probably be on here for a little while, probably 8 months, maybe up to a year as we work through that effort with the railroad. This project here will be advertised next week, and so you'll see that come off. And this project right here was an emergency bridge project that we just put out. The emergency part of that project is complete and already put into place. And so right now we're just kind of working through what the repair solution will be, the final. So that's what the update for those 3 that you see as past due. Down here. Sorry. And so down in here, we have about 220 projects that have been advertised or committed through the first of the year. So this is kind of a different timeline that you see this project summary down here. And that's approximately about $1 billion at this point. So going down into where we are with the construction contracts, which I found this was interesting. Even last October, we had 167 projects, and this year we're at 167 projects as well. We're a little less than last year, but contracts remaining are about $452 million, and we've paid out just about $1.5 billion.
Serious money.
Lots of money, yes. So again, so now we're down into the contractor payments we've made. And you can see we're in the same trend as we always are. You know, we're really high in the summer months when we're doing most of our work. And we'll start to slow down through October here with our last payments for contractor payments. Going into where we are with contract award and engineer's estimate, we are trending well with our engineer's estimates and where we're getting our bids. So we're relatively close there, and we're really following the trend at this point. So within project delivery, we're meeting our goals, and we've really had some really good partnerships with our contractors over the last year, given the situation we've been in with inflation and all of the other aspects of what's been happening in construction. So that's where we are with project delivery, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Mr. Chair.
Please, go ahead, Donna.
Hi, Carmen. Are we still trending about 30% relative to escalation and inflation?
No, not. Overall, I think we're probably more like that 9 to 10% right now.
Thank you.
Yes, of course.
What about the supply? Are we getting enough cement and?
It's still slow, but we have we're maintaining. So we're probably a little behind in the supply, but all the contractors are working together, which is really fortunate with our industry, that all the contractors actually work together too. And basically the way they're getting their supply is divvied out accordingly to what their needs are. So we've seen that improve over time.
Thank you. Any other question? Thank you, Carmen.
All right, thank you very much.
Morning, Commissioners. Troy Peterson, Operations Director at UDOT. I get to update you on our zero fatalities portion of the strategic direction. Okay, traffic fatalities. One thing I'd like to show here is our traffic fatalities, our suspected serious traffic injuries, as well as our traffic crashes. You'll notice in each one of these we have the orange line. There's our what we call our target. It's a reduction target. Basically, we take 3 prior years, average those out, and reduce it by 2.5% to try to set a target to where we, not that we're shooting to hit that, but we'd love to see that reality be below that target of what's actually happening on the roadway. Real quickly, as we're sitting here today, we're sitting at 254 fatalities on our roadway through this time. If you remember last month, we were a little bit on a slower pace than 2021, but we've some unfortunate incidents of the last week or two have increased that. We're on a pace faster than we of losing lives on our roadways than we were last year. Same thing, same trend here with suspected serious traffic injuries. We're sitting a little higher there. Each one of these traffic crashes, we're up about 6% from that target. Suspected serious is we're up about 14%, and then our fatalities right now we're sitting at 19% higher. So not some trends that we're excited to report on. One thing I do want to identify or share with you is our vulnerable user category, which I list those out as our pedestrians, bicyclists, and motorists. Today's motorcyclists. Thank you. We're sitting at 99 of that 254, roughly 39%. Like I mentioned last month, right around 40% is what we've seen for a while. But we're seeing 39, and 41 of those were pedestrians, 15 bicyclists, and 43 motorcyclists. Let's see if I can make one more right here. So that's kind of an update on the. There it is.
I'll get it.
Yeah, there's giving you a help here.
There we go. So last month, there was a question about zero fatalities and some of the outreach we have here. Ran across this graph recently to show the outreach that goes out that our zero fatalities team is doing. And what you're looking at here is kind of a busy looking graph. But what I wanted to show you is it shows last year versus this year in the number of outreach presentations that our group is involved in. If you look at if you look at the left side here, you've got January 2021 and January of 2022. And there's a common theme there when you start looking across to the amount of outreach that's going on currently with our teams. When you compare it month to month, how much more outreach we're out there getting out to try and educate, whether that be businesses or pre-drivers or the back to school nights that, the parent nights, I should say, that they offer. A lot of these presentations, they center on those safe driving behaviors. And as always, when I end my presentation, I always like to throw those 5 behaviors out there. And as I repeat those. And there's a common theme in these presentations, right? As always, wear a seatbelt, drive focused, calm, alert, and sober. Those are the 5. And so I'll end with that unless there's some questions.
Do I want to ask a question?
Go ahead, please.
Okay. On your 0 fatalities, I know when you're looking at your sheer numbers, are you looking at it as a percentage of population or just sheer numbers?
Sheer numbers.
You can show the graph, go back to the strategic document.
I would be interested to see that as percent of population, because while you feel like maybe you're not quite meeting your goal, if you look at your percentage population.
They'll show you the measure that we use to.
So we do have a fatality rate that is based on
Okay.
it. And I did not bring that up, I didn't show it today, but we are based on the number, our BMT is up, our vehicle miles traveled for the year is up. So that's a calculation in that, for that rate. We're trending a little bit better than we were last year, but our fatality numbers are still up.
But I think if we compare it to the population.
No, and this is a national measure. The national goal is to get to 1.0. You can see we've been under 1.0 for quite a while.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think you're doing very well.
So the
even though
rate,
your
the
numbers
rate's the
didn't
way to
show
look at it.
it.
How many of our fatalities are non-seatbelt use? Has that changed, or do you know?
I don't have that exact number for you, but I know that, actually,
Well, that's last year. If you take out the bicyclists, pedestrians, and motorcyclists, out of the total last year, it was about 40% of the fatalities could have of one of the factors was not level seatbelt.
Because I know we lost a couple last week that didn't have their seatbelts. So.
Most crashes have multiple, you could have a distraction element with aggressive driving, or so there might be multiple.
Experiment, big one.
I don't know if signs help, but I was in Oklahoma and Missouri last week driving around. Oklahoma had a crazy sign that said construction zone, don't hit a Oklahoma worker, Oklahoma, avoid $10,000 fine. I thought, a life's worth a lot more than $10,000, but they had a $10,000 fine after that. There was multiple signs. There was another sign that I think was more effective. It said, keep Missouri trash free, $1,000 fine and or a year in jail. And I didn't see much trash in Missouri. That was pretty interesting. I mean, those kind of penalties start getting people's attention, I think. So it was kind of weird that avoid a $10,000 fine, don't hit somebody. So anyway, just a comment.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, please, go ahead.
It's so hard not to be in the room with you all. Troy, I was reading this morning in the Salt Lake Tribune a statistic about the most bicyclists killed thus far, with still 2 months in our year to go. How do you respond to that? Gas prices are up. People are looking for ways to be healthy. People are looking, we spend a lot of time teaching and talking about alternate forms of transportation. How do you respond to that? And what are we doing to help? I know we're trying to have our drivers pay attention to things outside the car as opposed to inside the car. But how might you address that?
Well, Commissioner, I think UDOT is obviously focusing on creating walking and biking trails, creating more access for pedestrians, bicyclists. I think John Gleason may have mentioned this. We all have some shared responsibility when it comes to pedestrians, bicyclists, and that is a way to. We need to watch out for pedestrians. We need to raise our awareness to be looking for them, as well as the shared responsibility with the bicyclists and pedestrians to be looking for motorists. And I think the biggest advice I've given is make eye contact with. If you're intersection, you're looking to cross, just be able to make that eye contact so we go from there. So I'm not sure if that answers your question or not.
Hey, Troy, aren't you also involved with the committee, the county, the city? Haven't you been working with them trying to public safety, trying to look at ways to help improve the deal with the pedestrian bicycle rise. I think I read recently where there's been a task force that's working up in Salt Lake, I think, on that as well, Donna, which I think is also looking at how they can come together to try to work on that issue.
Yeah, we've got some participants, our Region 2 partners, as well as some of our traffic safety personnel have been meeting with Salt Lake City on a task force to look at ways that we can help improve on that.
Mr. Chair, Natalie Gochner, if I can say something real quickly.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I want to jump on Donna's point and just emphasize that I think with the growing popularity of e-bikes that we're just seeing the beginning of, auto bicycle accidents, and the wider adoption of cycling is going to put more and more cyclists on the road. So I think UDOT should give a fine point to thinking through that.
Thank you. Any other question? Thank you, Troy.
Thank you.
Item number 6 on the agenda is grant update, and Ben Hewitt is coming to present that.
Thank you, Commissioners. Ben Hewitt, Program Development. So I'm just going to go over the grant status update item. So I've got our customary spreadsheet that reviews the status of open grants and grants that UDOT and partners are pursuing. So the first few on here, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on here because they've been on here for a while and they're in the submitted but waiting to hear status. So the first one listed is the Accelerated Innovation Deployment Grant, or AID grant, for a utility detection project. And then the next 5 on the list are in the National Scenic Byways program. So there's 5 various projects, anything from projects out on the road to management plan updates. Those are in that same status of they have been submitted. They've been there for a while and we're waiting to hear. So as I scroll down, the next program, this is somewhat similar. This one is, we talked about this one before, the I-15 South Iron County Freight Mobility and Safety Project. This one was a project that we put forth in a grant opportunity that had multiple categories, and there are still some of those categories that have not yet been announced. So this one is still in the running for grant awards. The next project is the one that Ivan Marrero mentioned that, and I just need to scroll over because you got to show the green. It's always nice to show that. That's the goal, is to have that status box turn green. So this was the I-84 Echo Junction feasibility, UN Junction Echo Junction feasibility study in the bridge program. So it's a feasibility study for a bunch of bridges in that corridor to come up with a future treatment plan for those bridges. And as Ivan mentioned, hopefully this sets us up for a future grant for the actual work that would be associated with that planning project. The next one down, UDOT also has a grant submitted for a group of bridges on I-80. It's in the bridge investment program, but this is for the actual bridge project. So that one, we talked about that one a little bit before, but I believe it's 22 bridges in that I-80 area near the Salt Lake Airport that they're in fair condition, and the goal is to do the rehabilitation to keep them from going into poor condition. So that one is in that same overall program, and we're waiting to hear on that one as well. So this next one, this is a new one, and this came up kind of very recently. So this project, UDOT has a project on I-15 in the St. George area between mileposts 6 and 8, and it includes, and then they're doing an environmental for milepost 7 for looking at an interchange. Well, in the midst of that effort, there was some coordination that UDOT and St. George City have been doing to look at some potential crossings, local street crossings of I-15. And it was identified kind of a little bit at the end of the grant period for this Reconnecting Communities Pilot Program grant. So the UDOT team in St. George City did some scrambling very recently and have put together a grant application to take a look at that. More to come on that. There's some different options and coordination with the environmental document that's going on. So we would likely come back with some additional information pending the outcome of the grant and look at different funding type scenarios, participation, and try to sync that up with the environmental effort. So that one, the submission deadline was just yesterday. So there was some scrambling, like I mentioned, and the team did a great job to pull stuff together and put something forward for that grant, and we'll keep everyone updated on what that's looking like as we go forward. Just a few more. So the next one is a grant under the Consolidated Rail Infrastructure and Safety Improvement, or CRISI grant program. This one is under development right now. It's UDOT and in coordination with Spanish Fork, and it's for the Provo sub-rail consolidation project. So it's a project to consolidate two parallel rail lines into a single rail line, which facilitates removing some of the other rail line, which eliminates a bunch of crossings. There's a bunch of benefits for this. This one had some legislated appropriated funding for it for the state match. So that's where that match that's showing in that match amount there. And so the UDOT team in Spanish Fork are working on that grant application under that CRISI program. This is one of the ones where there's a huge benefit to being able to consolidate those rails and get rid of some crossings. And then the last one on the list, this is a placeholder, and we'll just keep this one on the list. This is very similar. It's awaiting a future wildlife crossing pilot program grant to come out. Last I heard, I think 2020, sometime in 2023, potentially. And this one also had legislative funding for the match set aside in this past legislative session, targeted at a wildlife mitigation project on I-84. So anyway, that was our list of grants. Ivan Marrero did mention there's a couple recent grant opportunities that came out, the SMART and the Attain. I think Troy's group is taking a look at those, and will likely, we'll come back with some additional information as we potentially develop grant applications. There's a lot going on, and they're starting to come rapid fire. So got a lot of people working on them.
Ivan, thanks for the strong work on all this. The applications go to Washington for decision, or they go to regional area for decision?
They go to either the US DOT or higher, but yeah, basically the Secretary's office is involved. But we in the field office are not.
Do our legislators get involved in encouraging good decisions on our behalf?
Ivan can't mention that. We make them aware of what we're putting our hand up for.
Great. Good. Thanks for the hard work. That's a tough job. Thank you.
Any other question on commission?
Thank you.
Next two items of agenda 7 and 8 will be presented by Bob. Bob.
Magic mouse moving. Hello, commissioners. Thank you so much. I'm Bob Pelley. I'm SIP coordinator. Like I said, we got a few items to go through in our business items list on the agenda today. First item being item number 7. That's the consent agenda. Included in this consent agenda packet are the minutes for the September 15th, 2022 staff meeting update meeting and area tour, and the September 16th, 2022 Transportation Commission meeting. So, does the mouse move down? Okay, there we go. You will see. And I'll just flip through here real quick, just to not get too busy, but included are the meeting minutes. These were done by Heather Barthlow. That's a lot of work.
Thank you for doing that, David.
Here is the report on the tour. Also by Heather. And then lastly, the commission meeting minutes.
Well, Bob is doing that. I had to mention yesterday that when we were trying to get on the bus, Heather, like a good shepherd, she was just sitting there with the note, checking everybody, and there was one missing from the list. She was just probably looking to see where the person is. Oh, there he is. Monty's here now. We can go. Thank you. We've been watchful.
I'll admit it was me.
Oh,
I was
no.
late.
You were going to?
It's tough to herd chickens.
She does a good job.
All right, so the action requested. All right, the action requested, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda item as presented.
So moved, Commissioner Adams.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions, comments, directions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the next item is item number 8. This is a 8A-1. This is a structural pothole patching on various structures on I-15 Weaver Canyon. This is a new project for Region 1. The amount requested for this project is $3.2 million. Justification for this project is Region 1's maintenance folks have identified 5 structures on I-15 and Weaver County as needing structural pothole patching and surface treatments. These structures are located on I-15 between 2400 South and 400 North. This project will extend the life of these structures by removing the delaminated asphalt, performing structural pothole patching, replacing the waterproof membrane, and then repaving the structure. So the motion, here's the map of the location. Red dots are the locations that they've identified. So the motion for this is to approve adding the structural pothole patching on various structures in Weaver County project to the current STIP as detailed.
Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. I have a question, Bob. What kind of material used for waterproofing? Any kind of new technology membranes, or what is it?
I want to phone a friend, and we have someone in the audience, I think,
Carmen,
that
you want to
knows lots about some bridges. Carmen, can you answer that question on the waterproofing membrane?
Yeah, there's no new technology necessarily presented in it. I'm not necessarily the material expert either, but it's polyethylene.
Okay.
So it's nothing new. It's what we put on every bridge right now when we do a waterproofing membrane. And when we do use asphalt, we always put a waterproofing membrane and the asphalt on it. If we're doing the not asphalt, we'll do like a polyester concrete overlay or a thin bonded overlay. So we do use the 2 different systems when we do repairs such as this.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is item 8A-2. Project is Elk Ridge Drive SR 198 to 8,000 South in Salem. This is a request for funding addition, Region 3. The current project value on this is just a little over 18 million, and they're asking to add a little over 1.4 million to this project from their Transportation Solutions program. The Elk Ridge Drive is a Utah County project that connects SR 198 and SR 164. UDOT and the Transportation Commission have participated in the project by funding traffic signals on both ends of the project and funding an additional lane to SR 168 from Elk Ridge Drive to the northbound I-15 on-ramp. Current funding levels were from the previous engineer's estimate in October of 2020. The additional 1.415 million is necessary to address additional costs due to inflation and additional quantities of road base and asphalt that were omitted from the original engineer's estimate. I'll hand down to a map location. You can see the dotted line is the new road that the locals are building on this, and then where they connect on the highways and the blue line is the work that is being requested in this request. So the motion is to approve adding funding to the Elk Ridge Drive SR 198 to 8,000 South Salem project as detailed.
I move for approval. Yeah, anything else go?
I'll second it.
We have a motion with second. Any other questions, comments?
Commissioner Gardner already left, but she'd be happy.
I'll make sure you report.
Yeah.
Thank you. Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. Item 8A-2 is approved. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next item is 8A-3. This is the Heber Valley Parkway Environmental, a funding addition, a Region 3 request. Currently funded at $4 million now. They're asking for an additional $670,000 from their Transportation Solutions program. The Heber Valley Corridor Environmental Impact Statement is being prepared to improve regional and local mobility on US 40 and provide opportunities for non-motorized transportation while allowing Heber City to meet their vision for the historic town center. The project will be completed in 2 phases. Phase 1 included an early scoping and development of the draft process and need. Notice to proceed for phase 1 was issued on February 27th, 2020, and is now complete. The project transitioned to phase 2 with the notice to proceed issued on January 5th, 2021. Phase 2 includes completion of the EIS and record of decision. During the course of the study, the project has held several public meetings based on public comments provided during these periods, and because of regional mobility consideration, the project study area has been expanded. When the current contract was initially scoped, these additional expansion areas were not included. The contract modification is needed to cover the extra work required. The additional scope of work also includes 1 additional alternative to be evaluated in depth. This requires additional field survey, wetland delineation, wildlife, and T&E Ute Lady Tress for the expanded study area, and also extends the project duration. Included is the map showing the expanded area. And today's motion is to approve adding funding to the Heber Valley Parkway Environmental Project as detailed.
I'll make that. Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion.
I'll second that, and I'll say that we need this. We've went so far on this, and there's so much going on. We've got to have a study, and I think it's wise that we're doing. This money is totally justified. Just not do this would negate anything we've done to this point.
This is one of the good examples that how much and how carefully UDOT listens and with the public meetings that we have, the town hall meetings that we have, just to make sure that they're doing the right thing. The money is getting well spent rather than doing some patchwork and hope it's gonna get better tomorrow. So this is an exact example. They listen, they study, they give opportunity to citizens to express their issues if they have any. And thank you for doing that.
This is gonna be one that when it's finished, 35% will be unhappy, 35% will be happy, and the others will still be happy.
We'll take it. That's a good odds.
Spoken like a true former state senator.
Of this area.
Or a parent.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, go ahead, please.
if I could, because I think there's an important lesson to where we are right now on this project. Back in the 80s, I had an opportunity to spend time with the then deputy director of the department, and we toured this area. And we actually had in our office all the Mylar plan sheets for a bypass around downtown Hebert on the north side. And there was no development in that area. And at that time, it was seen as something that was a little disruptive, didn't want to actually get the traffic off of Main Street. And, you know, the time wasn't ready, you know, we weren't ready for it as a community. But it never gets easier. And this is going to be a hard project. I like, you know, I hope the senator's odds are true to form. But this has got a lot of people concerned, this study. So the region's doing this in the right way, but sometimes we back away from decisions because they're kind of hard. But just remember, they never get easier.
And now the options to do the first one, which is not existent.
It's gone.
It just isn't existent. And we're having the same thing happen in Santaquin here. The more the growth is going on and stuff, that it's going to continue to narrow in and where there isn't going to be a good decision. So.
The same thing with the Moab.
But we want to make the same thing with Moab. We've got 4 cities if we throw Santaquin in there. In the state of Utah that's in trouble because it's been postponed and the tough decision hasn't been made.
Logan.
Moab, Logan,
Logan's the other.
Heber.
Garden City.
That's right.
So we're gonna make a decision that won't be popular with some, but the alternative is going to be, it'll be worse down the road, as Carlos said. So.
With
We
that
just-
comment, yeah. With that comment, all in favor of this project, please say aye.
Aye.
I
Thank you, go. Any opposed? Thank you. Item 8A-3 is approved.
Thank you, Commissioner. Next item. Next item is 8A-4. This is the I-15 SR20 to South Beaver. This is a request for funding addition. It's in Region 4. This project is currently funded at $11.7 million, and the request is to add $2.9 million. The scope of the I-15 SR20 to South Beaver project is to provide a 2-inch overlay on I-15 northbound and southbound from approximately milepost 93.8 to milepost 106. The additional $2.9 million is needed to address the inflation related to asphalt prices and rising construction costs. And here's the map of location just south of Beaver there on I-15.
Has this project started? Has it been bid?
It's in design, right? It's in design right now, so.
Go ahead, please.
I mean, you know, when Carmen went over the project delivery and she showed how well we're doing on engineers' estimates versus the actual bids, it's because of the work they do in design, trying to look forward and anticipate those costs and coming back to the commission. That allows us to bring these projects in within the commission approved amount. So Kurt, when do you expect our camera?
This will advertise in December.
December, so they're close.
Thank you, Carlos.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we approve.
Second. Okay, motion and a second. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Donna, Natalie? I see the head shake, so that means go ahead with the motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item 8A-4 is approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. Next item is 8A-5. This is the ramp meter managed motorway study, coordinated ramp metering study. It's a new project. This one we talked about in our meeting. This is a new project funded with TIF money and for $500,000. It's a study. In 2017, the managed motorway studies was completed. The defined implementation showed a significant operational improvement to mainline I-15. However, there are several items that need further exploration regarding how implementation would benefit the system and what it would ultimately look like. These include, but are not limited to, understanding the true operational benefit, impacts to connecting arterials, questions regarding system-to-system meters, construction, operational needs, what elements define a successful implementation, and which routes are managed. We're requesting funding to evaluate these items and determine if a modified implementation of coordinated ramp metering is more appropriate for the Utah freeways. The end result of this study would be a more refined recommendation for an advanced ramp meter system. The anticipated cost of this study is $500,000. It is anticipated it would take approximately 9 months to complete. So the request today is a motion to approve the coordinated ramp metering study project to the current step as detailed.
Is this the Doug McDonald Rice?
That was a way of trying to demonstrate the concept.
Yeah.
I move for approval.
Thank you.
I'll second.
it.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions? I know we had a detailed explanation from Carlos yesterday and a video to watch, so.
Right.
Pretty much educated.
So is this looking at the whole system?
You know, do it in Utah. Not Washington State.
Well, no, yeah, this will be specific to our systems. Yeah.
Got it.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item 8A-5 is approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. Our next two items are for information only. 8A-6 is a Wolfpack Way extension, 3100 North to 3700 North and Hyde Park. This is a funding addition. Project's currently funded a little over almost 5.3 million, and I'll be adding about 536,000 to this project. This project will extend the Wolfpack Way from 3100 North to 3700 North and Hyde Park. The addition of 536,000 is needed to address additional costs due to inflation and rising construction costs. The funding increase was added during the Cache Metropolitan Planning Organization's Executive Council meeting on 19 September. Again, this is just information only. Here's a map of this project, red line. Next item, as well, it's an information only, is 8A-7. This is Elk Ridge Drive, SR 198 to 8000 in South Salem. We added some money earlier in this meeting, and this is the locals adding their money. So this is adding 17 million of local funds to this project. Elk Ridge Drive is a Utah County project that connects SR 198 and SR 164. Current funded levels were from a previous engineer's estimate in October 2020. The items associated with the cost increase are right-of-way acquisitions and inflation related to construction materials. Utah County proposed to add 17 million of local sales tax and county funds to this project to fund cost escalation and construction and right-of-way, among other items. The 17 million increase of local funds was added during the Mountain Land Association of Governments TAC meeting on January 24th, 2022. In the same picture as earlier, the This is specifically the blue line, the new route being constructed. In the packet is a letter from Mountain Association of Governments relaying the locals' approval of adding these funds, as well as a cost estimate detailing these dollars. Again, this is some information only. Okay. Next item. This is item 8B, and this is the high priority corridor resolution. Last commission meeting, this was brought to you for information only. Today we're before you for request for approval. Utah Transportation Code 72-5-402 states that the planning and preservation of transportation corridors is a public purpose. Further, Utah Transportation Code 72-5-403 Parent 3 directs the Utah Transportation Commission to designate transportation corridors as high priority transportation corridors for transportation corridor preservation purposes. The UTC 01-05 policy states that the UTC, Utah Transportation Commission, through resolution shall amend, add, or remove designated high priority transportation corridors. The resolution shall include recommendations identified by the Department of Transportation for amendment, addition to, or removal from the list of designated high priority transportation corridors, as well as a current list of the Transportation Commission's approved high priority transportation corridors. A copy of the approved resolution shall be sent to counties and municipalities in which the high priority transportation corridors are designated. The justification: the department identified potential modifications to the high priority corridor list. The list of the proposed changes are attached. The department proposes changes in this this last month's commission meeting and is presenting the list today for approval. In your handout is our resolution. This is the resolution. Here's the list of corridors. And then this signing page. So our motion today is a motion to approve the high priority corridor resolution as detailed.
I know we looked at it. Can we just go back to the list really quick one last time?
Absolutely.
Yes, I know we got last month. Scan.
I think that's the full list.
Good list.
Yep.
I'd move for approval.
Thank you. A second. So motion is second. Any other questions, concerns? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 8B is approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Bob. Good job.
Go Utes.
Item number 9. Ben is already ready to come down. Come on. We have the commission rule action. First we'll have an item A, and then we'll have the B. Maybe Albert is going to present that. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Commissioners. Ben Hewitt, Program Development. This item is to request approval to file a Transportation Commission Administrative Rule change. So Lyle McMillan brought this item for information only last month, and it is Administrative Rule R940-5, Approval of Highway Facilities on Sovereign Lands. So this rule was developed in 2011 to comply with State Code 726303. And it is to change this rule and align it with the process for align the process for highway facilities on sovereign lands with a recently updated unsolicited proposal rule. So since the original highway facilities on sovereign lands rule was developed, there has been an unsolicited proposal rule, which many of the items in that rule cover some items in here. So Lyle went over those last month. The goal is to align those processes, get rid of any unnecessary duplication and potential conflicts with those two processes. So there was some very detailed procedural steps in this rule that now can be pointed to the unsolicited proposal rule and streamlined in that regard. And then there was also the opportunity to correct some formatting and typos in the rule. So I'll just scroll quickly through the packet. This is the standard boilerplate for when you're going to change a rule. It's got some justification information that our legal counsel helps us with. And then there is a strike-through version of the rule that was presented last month. You'll notice the section here under the submission and proposed plan application. Here's where most of the very detailed procedural stuff was stripped out and then pointed to the unsolicited proposal rule. And then there was some formatting and correct verbiage made at the same time. So with that, I will make everyone dizzy and scroll back up. So the request before you today is a motion to approve the updated rule R940-5 and to file as a proposed rule change with the Utah Office of Administrative Rules.
I would move we approve it. It makes sense to clean up the code. Doesn't make sense to do this through two processes.
Second. Thank you. Motion in a second. Any other questions, concerns? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item 9-A is approved. Thank you.
Leif is going to fill in
Yeah.
this.
Commissioners, good to be with you. Good morning. It's still morning, so that's good. That means we might get out early. All right, so this is another commission rule. So your rule, you'll vote on this. It's 940-8, and it has to do with the road usage charge program. This is the rule that provides the procedures, your process for setting the road usage charge rate. So when this road usage charge program was first put on the books by the legislature, they gave you the authority to set that rate, and you set that at 1.5 cents per mile for those who were in the program as they drive around and choose to participate in that program. The legislature has kind of suspended that authority for a little while until 2032. They have set up kind of a structure to at first lower that road usage charge rate to 1 cent per mile, and then there'll be gradual increases until 2032, at which case you guys will be back, retain your authority to set that rate. So we'll all be back here 2032 with a new rule to adopt.
Maybe Carlos.
Well, we won't ask for a raise of hands who's going to be here or anything, but at that point, if the legislature just keeps the laws as the same, you guys would have that opportunity again in 2032. So, and that's.
So this really is, we don't have any authority to do it anyway.
Yeah, it's kind of a formality that the legislature give it, they take it away.
Align with the law.
Yeah. So
That's our stuff.
you picked up on that, and yep, it's exactly right. So, and that's all.
You need to ask for motion.
Yeah, so the motion would be to approve this rule, and what it would be is just the repeal. So,
I'm honored to move that. And I will see you all in 2032.
I need a second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Hi. Hi. Mr. Chair, Natalie chatting. I'm going to excuse myself for an 11:15 panel that I'm moderating, but great to be with everybody. Sorry to have to leave just a tad early here.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks, man.
Thank you for your
Thanks,
support, and
Natalie.
have a wonderful night.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Natalie.
Any opposed? So yes, so motion carries. Thank you. Next item is number 10, administrative rule review, and Troy Peterson already here. Thank you.
Troy Peterson, operations again. Rule R909-2. It's not Desert Day. It's National Desert Day.
Let's do that.
Sounds good though, doesn't it?
Let's do that again.
So this admin rule is, we brought forward, we did some cleanup, some verbiage definitions and technical corrections with there. Probably the biggest item to make you aware of is to change the requirement to allow for nighttime restrictions, to be able to, for taking oversized loads, of changing that limit from 10 feet to 12 feet. We did a check with the states around us, and almost every state around us, except maybe Arizona, has that same requirement of allowing 12-foot widths to transport at night. One other stipulation is removing the pilot car requirement that we have. There's been some issues, not issues, but there's some opportunities. We have a shortage in, excuse me, of personnel to actually be in a pilot. This would actually provide some relief to our motor carrier group, and I should say in our oversized, overweight transport group, of being able to move vehicles without that restriction has been very difficult for them. But it's also, it aligns with what's going on around us. So that's the big bulk of the change in what we're seeking here. Most of the rest of that's technical and clerical changes.
Is the trucking industry looked at this?
Yes, they have.
They're okay with it?
They have.
It sounds to me like there's nothing worse than having one state sitting there with an odd things, and now they have to route around us to be able to do it.
So all, Mr. Chairman, so all the rules that come through the deal with motor carriers go through the Motor Carrier Advisory Board. Senator Ipsen is still chairing that board, so the trucking committee is well represented.
So is this a motion?
No, this is
just information.
There's a department.
Well,
Opportunity for you guys to weigh in.
Pardon?
It's an opportunity for you to weigh in.
Well, I just, I see these trucks moving in, and, there's one issue that just drives me insane. And that is you have a triple coming through from back east, and it gets to Wyoming, and they have to drop one, bring one truck across, and then send another truck back to pick up the third triple. But the law just doesn't allow Wyoming to have triples on their interstate.
Or turnpike doubles. We have to run Rocky Mountain doubles, so those are a little smaller.
A little smaller, but I mean, it just upsets the community, and it adds more congestion and more trucks.
This will really help our construction industry too, moving
Heavy equipment, yeah. That's a good thing.
Thank you.
I have one question on that trucks thing. So are the triples allowed? Are there restrictions on time of day, or can they go any time of day or night? I'm just curious. Does anyone do that?
If it gets adverse weather, they'll pull them off.
If they can go whenever they want.
And those people that have that permit are very protective of it.
Yes.
Okay.
If you get a high wind warning, you won't see many triples.
No, don't see me next to them either.
Thank you, Troy.
Thank you.
Item number B is kind of presented by Lisa. You're with multi-talented lady.
This is mine, so I'll take it. Are you gonna put it way down for the other? This Troy's roll was really long. Okay. So this is for information only. This is a proposed change to our rule R930-5. R8 is the section that refers to maintenance, but the rule itself is the establishment and regulation of at-grade railroad crossings. So in March of 2021, we made a change to the rule to clarify maintenance and who was paying for the maintenance of these crossings. In the 2022 legislative session, House Bill 181 passed, which clarifies that the department is responsible for the allocation of cost. So the rule change is no longer needed. That's the change we're proposing to make with this. Pretty simple. This is the package that's put together. If you get down to the bottom, this is the change right here.
We didn't need a motion.
No.
No,
This is
this
the part where-
I'd like to make a motion.
Very supportive.
That concludes our business items, and now we need to go from commission for their reports and their assignments. Let's start with you, Commissioner Law, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We didn't meet for corridor preservation this month, no action there. The Cache Metropolitan Organization, CMPO, met this month and had a great discussion about additional funding for projects, and you saw one of those today, Wolfpack Way. And Logan is moving forward with some activities there. We discussed those in the downtown area and feeling good about that. And then we're starting a discussion about a west side of Cache Valley corridor, which I think is forward thinking, and they've scheduled a tour, and I'll be participating in that along with some local government leaders. We're going to be looking at the west side of Cache Valley. Cache Valley is recognizing their growth and the challenges that they're facing. And right now, the west side of the valley is not as populated, but they're starting to see significant growth. So this is a great example of some forward thinking on the part of the leaders there in Cache Valley. And I just want to compliment that group. They are very collaborative and work together well, and in changing allocations of funding, even though they're smaller amounts, they work together well and are great collaborators. It's a good group to be with.
Thank you. Commissioner Pencil.
Have a couple of meetings coming up soon with the Wasatch COG, so haven't anything to report there. I will report that I participated in a couple of meetings concerning Highway 191 south out of Duchesne down to Highway 6. I think very productive and progress is being made there. And since I came over it this morning, I'll report that I passed 11 trucks returning back to the basin from Duchesne to the Emma Park Road, and past 4 going the other direction. So we're, this is one of those things. It's just location, and sometimes we just have to adapt to what we've got. And I appreciate what's going on. We've got some industry identified. I don't, those of you that haven't been over that road in the wintertime, you need to take that experience and travel it. But we have some additional paved pull-off areas to chain down that the Duchesne shed's done. And we're looking at some solutions. I'll be honest, my number one vote came out of that is that highway where Highway 6 and 191 come together. That is a terrible intersection. And we're going to have some serious accidents there. We're working on that. coming up with a solution.
The commission has provided funding.
We've, it's just, anyway, we take what we can get.
Thank you. Commissioner Evans?
I enjoy attending the Mount Land meetings with Rob and Eric, and we've heard from many of the mayors from our meetings about the issues, so probably nothing more to report. They've done a good job of reporting.
Thank you. Commissioner Clinton?
I just want to thank, I get a lot of comments and I turn them over to relevant officials at UDOT, and the response has been very helpful. Rob Stewart, Rob White, others just even recently been so helpful, and it's great to build our image as somebody serving the public. I was also in Arkansas as well as Missouri and Oklahoma driving roads this last week, and I'm just so proud, happy to come back to Utah by comparison. But I was in Bentonville, Arkansas, and they've really put a lot of money into active transportation. The motorbiking, they want to be the mountain bike capital of the world. They're really doing a nice job. Very crowded. It's a big tourist attraction, and certainly we have much better mountains for them to bike on. So anyway, it's nice and proud to be part of Utah. So thanks for that.
Commissioner Long, anything to report?
I don't have anything to report other than Carlos was in Cedar City this week, which was pretty exciting.
It goes everywhere.
We hosted the One Utah Summit on the campus of Southern Utah University this week, which is something we do every year. And it's a wonderful gathering of government, municipalities from all over the state, focusing on rural issues. And it's always nice to see our state leaders focusing on rural issues and participating in that process. But that has nothing to do with my responsibilities on this commission.
Well, thank you. You always do good work. I also attended my meetings. The first last month we had the second tunnel in St. George under the South Block. This was for the active transportation. Of course, we have more than 200 people ready to bike and walk to that tunnel. That was on September 23rd. Then also we had a funding meeting for the community impact board. We had 22 projects we funded last month, $55 million. Everything you can imagine. And the DTEC meeting that I had, they talked about the active transportation, and they showed the mapped overlays of the trails that are already existing, and they identified the gaps between the communities. St. George, Washington, from the Vulcan. So they're working very religiously, try to connect those and make it really all the way 360.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, please.
One other item, this week we received a report from the engineer who Region 1 contracted with regarding parking and safety improvements in the Garden City and the Bear Lake, larger Bear Lake area. And it was a well-received report. It was excellent. And we're seeing some unique changes with the lake bed receding, and then we also are struggling in Garden City with a major arterial through that area, much like other towns and cities in the state. And there are some great recommendations in that, and this information is starting now to be delivered to the community leaders. And we're seeing interesting challenges with development, where developments are approved by city leaders without recognition or planning for where the roads will go. And so this has stimulated a good discussion. But I just want to compliment Rob and his office, and Diego was our engineer, and he was great to work with. But we're hoping to get ahead of the curve on this situation, but there are going to be some challenges in that area of the state, just like everywhere else. So small rural areas are facing some of those same challenges with growth as the larger urban areas.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Debbie, for
Yeah, if I might, Mr. Chairman, I understand, all the problems we've got down here, but the legislature has given tools to local communities and counties to help fund some transportation issues. if they're not using that tool, if they aren't collecting the tools that are available, it really hampers you. And I can tell all those that's listening in and all those that's wondering, those counties that aggressively went forward and moved that, they're moving projects because they have the funds to help contribute to it. And the other, and I'll tell you, it's just, and I know no one wants to raise taxes, but I can tell you from personal experience that if you don't raise and generate the funds to maintain your highways, they just go to pieces or you get overcrowded. Rural roads are bad. And I took a lot of arrows when we raised the price of gas 5 cents to take care of rural roads. But we are in so much better shape than we would have been if we had to done it. At some time, you have to bite the bullet. And we all like roads. We all want to get where we want to. We don't want to be stopped. But that takes money. And so we've got to generate that. And the users pay it as a whole. And in fact, with the sales tax option, you get a lot more bang for your buck because it goes for this more than just things. But anyway, that's just, I'm just telling the mayors, the cities, the counties, the tools have been given to you. If you fail to use it, you're hurting yourself. Right. And at the end of the day, it ends up being like a 2-liter bottle of Coke per month.
I'm working on that.
And I realize it's just a little bit, they add up, but I tell you what, you blow a tire or have to go in and do a front end alignment, you've spent a lot of money.
Yes, no, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be quick. Maybe 3 things. The first one I probably shouldn't address, but I can't help. So the options that the county's been given, that I know there's a lot of discussions happening at the local level right now because there's a sunset June 30th on that. And there's concerns in terms of how that money can be used and discussions around more flexibility provided maybe from more rural communities in terms of what types of projects we qualify. So I think it appears the deadline, that sunset is bringing some conversations.
Well, that's front they can tweak it now.
And so that's taking place. A lot of conversation where we go around, and I'm sorry I missed last month's meeting. I was a little far away. I was probably asleep. The meeting before in Cedar City, and I appreciate for Commissioner Ross set us up in that beautiful room. But I think there were 6 public comments, and 5 of the public comments were around more active transportation. And I want to just thank you to the commission because in the last 1.5 to 2 years, and I don't have the number correct, but I think the commission has probably programmed around $130 million of active transportation projects, and you're able to see, where one of those projects is going just to the west of us here yesterday, or what kind of difference that will make. That's unprecedented. We've never seen that amount of money going towards active transportation, and it led to an announcement that Governor Cox made last week at the Utah League of Cities and Towns. And he just kind of put it out there, a 2-minute little announcement that I think has the potential to be very big. And he refers to it as a legacy project. But we've been having conversations with the governor's office since this summer about, if you had a chance to do something big and bold, what would that be? And, the cities and counties have and we have a lot of good trails around the state. The idea is to take it and basically connect those trails together with a state spine to try to, I refer to it at the time as the interstate of the trail systems. And I don't want to use that terminology because interstate brings up a bad image in a lot of people's minds. But this idea of having a connected active transportation system state and what that looks like in different communities is probably a little different. And so the governor is very excited about this. He's going to continue to talk about it. I anticipate it'll be in some form in his budget announcement, December 13th. So until that comes out, we really don't know what it looks like. And then it's obviously something we would work with the legislature on. But I think there's a potential to do something significant statewide that would make a difference to people's lives. And you know, part of this goes back to an experience I had, again, traveling internationally. I spent the afternoon with the mayor of Copenhagen about 5 years ago. And we were walking around town and he was showing me, you know, downtown Copenhagen. If you haven't been there, it's a beautiful town, but the amount of bike use and pedestrian use, it's phenomenal. It's different than really almost any place you can see. And he said that every project they do, whether it's a road project, a transit project, a building project, has to have as part of their goals a way to get people outside. I was like, huh, the whole wet place. Why do you want people outside? He says, because when people are outside, they come together. And when people come together, people need people. And they come together, they're happier. And he says, you know, if all you do is get in your car and drive into your garage and go to your living room, you may wave to somebody you know as you're driving from the airport, mayor, across the car. It's different than when you see them on a sidewalk outside. And so that stuck with me. And so that's something that I think I know you're going to continue to hear about it. I'm quite excited about the potential. I don't know what it looks like. So.
Thank you. Anything from Terry, Lisa, any reports from region directors? Well, with that, I'm gonna need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
You want to make motions?
This is the joke.
I'll move that we adjourn.
National Dessert Day.
Thank you, everyone.